Okay, last time we were talking and we were running through and going through our lecture on stable societies and the social contract theories of ethics. And we wanted to finish that, and then we'll go into my view and my plan for today is to finish stable societies, go into Nietzsche, take a break, and then we'll come back and we're going to talk about Stoicism and hedonism. And then, to end the evening, we're going to give you the test review. The test does have 55 questions, multiple choice, true, false, multiple select. Yes. Okay. We were talking about every man. And we were talking about how every man hold on a second. You think I finished every man? Okay. They're not concerned with gender or racial discrimination because every man is not typically a woman, nor is he a minority, so that he has to worry about it. You're welcome. Okay, contraception is not a problem because limiting the size of the family increases the chances of success. Okay, right now we're going through, and Rush Limbaugh has been ridiculed because he called, what's her name, Susan Fluke? I think her name is Susan Fluke. Called her a slut and a prostitute because she wants Georgetown University to pay for her contraception. She wants the college to pay for her birth control pills while she's going to Georgetown Law. She thinks that it's only the right thing to do that the government pay for contraception. So Rush Limbaugh called her a slut. And all his advertisers are jumping ship, and everybody's slamming on Rush Limbaugh for the things that he said about this young law school student who needs to get on birth control pills to help control her hormones because she's growing a mustache thicker than mine was last year. And no, she's not. Somebody doctored the photo for her. But contraception is not a problem for every man. Because if people use birth control pills and people use condoms, I do think that it is kind of ironic and funny that Miss Fluke wants birth control pills paid for, but still wants the guy to have to go pay $3.95 for a box of 3 condoms. Which about?
Not to mention his Levitra enzyme.
Huh?
Not to mention his Levitra enzyme. Still wants you to pay for all that.
Well, see, the courts have found Smiling Bob was a fraud. Smiling Bob, for those of you that know who Smiling Bob is, he's the guy from the commercials. Do you know why Bob is smiling? Better yet, do you know why Bob's wife is smiling? Because he uses enzyme, the male enhancement formula that'll guarantee 2 inches in growth. The judge sentenced him to 25 years in federal prison for fraud because Enzyte and Levitra and all of these other male enhancement drugs don't work. Your manhood size is relevant to your shoe size, and it's proportional. Well, that's not exactly true either. It is whatever creation or evolution has decided to let you have. Sorry. And a little pill's not going to do a whole lot about it. Okay. Illegitimacy is a problem, and marriage out of wedlock and single mothers is a problem to every man because they end up on food stamps. They end up being a burden to society. So those behaviors and those types of activities, every man frowns upon. Abortion is acceptable because it keeps babies off of welfare. And this is a slippery slope that bothers me. And this is a slippery slope. The whole contraception issue is a slippery slope that really, really bothers me personally. Because if we can turn around and say the government must allow us and must give us contraception, how far does it go, or how long does it take before the government says, here's your contraception? You take it or go to prison. If we make the government allow abortion, or let me rephrase that, if we make the government fund abortion, how long does it take before the government says, you're getting an abortion, you're too stupid to have a child? Not you personally, Stephanie, I'm just pointing at you. Because you're single, you're unwed, and before I've humiliated you enough last semester, you were spending almost every night in the men's dorm. Okay? Do I? You remember that? Now you don't spend as much time over there, although I have been getting reports here of late. What's going to keep the government? Okay, because once we told the government that they needed to start paying for lunches for poor people at school, what did they do? They stepped in and took over the curriculum of that school. And even though the school bus as it drives by says SAISD or BSISD, as in San Angelo Independent School District or the Big Spring Independent School District, there's nothing independent about it. It's funded by the federal government. Therefore, the federal government has say-so what is taught in the classroom. And why the faith of evolution is taught in the classroom, and the faith of creationism is excluded from the classroom. Because that's what they both are. Okay, so if we turn around and, as every man, we turn around and say, yes, I think contraception is a good idea, and I think abortion is a good idea, how long is it before the government turns around and puts us into a situation where they're forcing us to take contraception, forcing us to have vasectomies? Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Did you know that in the state of Missouri, it is illegal? There's a law in the state of Missouri that's already gone through the House. It is illegal for men to get vasectomies. Men have absolutely no rights or choice in their reproductive habits.
Doesn't that go against Roe v. Wade?
Well, it's a law in Missouri. Well, it's about to become law in Missouri, and Roe v. Wade says we can't tell a woman what to do with her body. Doesn't say anything about men. Yes, sir?
On a national scale, wasn't the first time control through contraception practiced by Herman Goering and Mengele?
What's the genetics? No, not genetics. What's the word I'm looking for?
They were neutering people that they didn't see as being proper Germans.
Yeah, but that took place. I'm trying to think of the term of the practice that you're talking about. Well, yes, it was a selective breeding, but it started in the United States long before Goering, and long before Goebbels, and long before Hitler and Nazism. Actually, the first person to start eugenics is the term I'm looking for. Eugenics actually started in the United States under the presidency of Woodrow Wilson, where the government turned around and said, you are an imbecile. You cannot have offspring. Let's cut off and make sure that you can never have children again. So your family, like the Juke family, for those of you that have had criminology, at least my criminology class, we've talked about the Juke family and how the Juke family has turned around, and generations, 5 generations, almost 100 years of family, were all mentally retarded, all criminals, prostitutes, and thieves. So the idea was to castrate and neuter them all so that they can't have any more offspring. And the program of eugenics started in the United States. We keep thinking, evil Hitler did this. No, Hitler didn't. Well, yes, Hitler did it, but he didn't invent it. Eugenics, EUGIN.
But they tried it on a national scale. It wasn't an individual or single scale. It was on a national scale for.
Well, so was it in the United States. If you were an MHMR client in the United States in 1912, you were neutral. You were neutered.
So what ultimately stopped this practice?
Hitler. Because Hitler did it, and Hitler's evil. So if Hitler's evil, we better not be doing this. There's a lot of things that we were doing in the United States that Hitler picked up and started, like the Keynesian economic plan, where the government controls big business. Okay. And with controls, we have private ownership, but governmental control and regulation of that ownership. Who owned the auto business in Germany under Hitler? Hitler owned Mercedes-Benz and BMW and Volkswagen. Actually, he invented Volkswagen. Okay, he took over the banks. He took over all of the major big business in Germany, and the government controlled and regulated its actions. Sound familiar? Okay, there's a lot of, but all of these things wasn't started by Hitler. They were started by Woodrow Wilson. And Woodrow Wilson brought them about. Well, even before Woodrow Wilson, Teddy Roosevelt and the Bull Moose Party, the Progressive Party. And whether you want to call them Nazis, or you want to call them Democrats, or you want to call them Libertarians, or you want to call them Republicans, or you want to call them conservatives, if they're progressive, this is where they ultimately land. This is where they ultimately end up. Into fascism. Okay, but it's called eugenics. And it's EUGENICS, for those of you that asked. So, seeing we brought up Hitler, and we brought up the eugenics and the theories of eugenics, let's talk about the man who was behind the philosophy of the Nazi and the Third Reich. And his name was Frederick Nietzsche. And his ethics were the ethics of what we call Superman, of the elite human. Okay. Hitler loved this guy because he took what Nietzsche said and put it together with his thoughts on the Aryan nation, and used Frederick Nietzsche to be able to justify his eugenics program. Okay, his published works are Thoughts Out of Season, Beyond Good and Evil, The Antichrist, and The Will to Power. He grew up in an all-female, very pious home. There was no father in the household. He had several sisters and aunts who all lived with him and molded his young life. In 1889, he was institutionalized for being mentally ill. And I put this at the beginning because Frederick Nietzsche is a nutcase. Period. Plain and simple. He challenged traditional ethics by raising unconventional questions. We sat there looking at Frederick Nietzsche. We sat there looking at Frederick Nietzsche, or Frederick Nietzsche looked at the world and looked at everything that we've talked about for the last 8 weeks and said, you're wrong. He said, you're not taking into account the nature of man. You're not taking into account man's attempt to rationalize the idiosyncrasies of man. He raised two questions within his worldview, and that was, how does morality in one society compare with a morality in another society? How can we say that there's an ultimate truth and a universal truth? We're looking at the nature of man. What is man interested in? Like today, we were over Tax-Free Day. The Dorothy Garrett Coliseum was all nice and pretty. The dance crew and the band and Mr. Clinton over here was, I heard him. I was in the top of the gallery and I could hear his saxophone over everything else. It was an amazing job that the arts people of our school did today. I do think that they needed the microphones to be a little louder during all that jazz song, because with the sax and the trumpets and the trombone and the baritone and the drummer, it was hard to hear their song from where I was at. But anyway, well, you did a good job, in other words. What we found is, do we find a difference in cultures even among school? Okay. Immediately following the presentation by the theater department and the dance crew and the band and the choir, they released, well, I don't know, 1,000 kids up in the concourse. I mean, it was elbow to elbow, shoulder to shoulder, butt to groin, everywhere you looked. You could not walk through that place. I don't know if you came up, Andrew, or not. I never saw you. But I know that Sonny was there. And there were just kids everywhere. And these two young girls bumped into each other. And one of the girls' hair got caught in an earring of the other girl, and it pulled her hair. So, because we are in such a loving, caring community, what does the nature of man say? Or what do we find in the nature of man? We find that this young woman named April turns around and goes, "You, excuse my language, you little bitch, you're pulling my hair," and went to try and throw a punch. Well, we figured out one thing today. We learned one thing. Never, ever, never, ever, ever, never start a fight in front of the criminal justice table when I'm standing there. Because I heard the bad language, I turned around, I saw the punch coming, I stopped the punch. Got in between these two girls, and they're reaching over the top of me, and Faith, the other young lady, what do girls do when they get in a fight? Do they sit there and punch it out like guys do? No, they go for the hair. And Faith reaches over me and grabs April's hair, a whole handful of hair, and starts pulling on it. I use the ulnar pressure point right here to open her hand and to remove it. And then I pushed her back, and April, who's still swinging punches and hitting me as hard as she could, I get her turned around, get her in a half Nelson arm bar, and I walk her out of the building. And all of a sudden, there was this great big humongous path and all kinds of room for people to walk through without getting in the way. But the nature of man, according to Nietzsche, the nature of man is the survival of the strongest. And if you show weakness, the nature of man will crush you. Okay. We see this in criminology in that rape victims are repeat victims. Once an individual becomes a victim of crime, especially a person crime, an assaultive crime, that victimhood repeats and repeats and repeats and repeats. I don't know if it's like this kind of odor that you put off, but the rapists go, "Hey, she's been raped before, I can get her." When interviewing rapists in the federal prison, this is one of the questions that I asked. I said, "How did you pick your victims?" He goes, "Well, I looked for the ones that have been raped before." I said, "Do they have a sign?" I've never seen a woman walking around with a sign on her chest that says, I've been raped. Do me again. And she goes, no, there's not a sign, but you can tell the signs. She's timid. She's closed off. She stays away from people. She walks close to the building. In the sidewalk, as you're watching her walk down the sidewalk, she's the one that's hugging the building. She's the one that's trying to stay in the shadows and trying not to be noticed. That's not true? Okay. How's it not true?
You hadn't met my ex-wife, Sue.
Okay. One thing with research and statistics and studies. Okay. And what that is, as Randy Hicks calls it, size 9 shoes. And what does that mean, size 9 shoes? Size 9 shoes is the average shoe size of men. This is what the statistics say. Are you going to find a woman that does not meet these statistics? Yes, you are. You are going to find somebody who wears a size 12 shoe. Like that one. That's a 12B. Okay? How many people in the world wear 12B? I had to drive all the way to El Paso to find a pair of cowboy boots that fit me. Because nobody wears a 12B. Everybody, but you can find all kinds of size 9s. Your brother wears what, size 22 and a half? A? No, actually, he's got the wide, super double E foot, too. Statistics and studies and research give you generalities based upon the commonalities of that research. The profile that I was giving you was of the average rape victim. Are there some women that overpower that and change that? Yes, there are. But for most women, they wear a size 9 shoe. Actually, women, it's 7.5, but yes.
For instance, the battered women, I've known several battered women. One in particular comes to mind. Every relationship she's had has been with somebody beats up, and the men that she's been with have never been known to strike a woman before till they get together. She's nice, even smoking and everything. Well, till alcohol comes in, but still, every time she gets in a relationship, within a few months they beat the hell out of her. Why did that happen? Why she keep getting with the one that beat her?
Okay. Let me see if I understood what you asked. You said that you know there's one woman who is a repeat victim of domestic violence. Even when the guys that she gets with have never beat up a woman before. But within a couple months, they're beating the crap out of her. Wow, she must be rough. Once a victim, always a victim. Until you change your mentality. And this is what Nietzsche said. Okay? Until you change your mentality and become Superman. I'm the man of iron, the man of steel. The bullets bounce off of me, but I can't see through iron and keep green rocks away from me. It's a typical set that we find within women. You know, there's a young woman that's in my class tomorrow. She constantly dates, again, bad word alert, assholes and bad boys. She chases bad boys. Ooh, I'm going to fix him. I'm going to heal him. And what's going to happen? He's going to beat the crap out of her. Yeah, okay. Okay. Nietzsche, although he was an atheist, or claimed to be an atheist, he studied at Divinity University, in Germany. Again, he became mentally ill in 1889. His second question was, what does it say about a theory of morality in general? In answering, he voiced his disdain for Western morality. Somebody whistling? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I hate to back you up for a moment. What is Frederick mental illness?
Excuse me?
What was Frederick's mental illness back in 1889?
What was he doing in 1889?
What was his mental illness?
Oh, it was paranoid schizophrenia. No, his philosophies. He wanted to compare the moralities of one nation to another. And Western Christianity and Western morality, he said, was wrong. Okay? And he said that anything, if it's pleasurable and anything that's good and strong, as Westerners, we oppose it. Okay. And if we oppose one theory, or if we oppose all other theories, and reject everything except Western Judeo-Christian rationalism, what does it say to us as a people? Because is anybody's morality better than anybody else's? Just because you think this is right and that is wrong doesn't mean that this is right and that is wrong. He accused Christianity and Christendom as being antagonistic to excellence. It promoted mediocrity. And he says that Christianity promotes servitude and promotes slavery. He rejected the idea that sex was sinful. Because for anybody who's had sex, we know it's a lot of fun, isn't it? Well, there's a few people that, you'd rather chew your arm off than let them know. He said that Christianity devalued the body and the mind in favor of the soul. Because it doesn't matter what your life is like here, right? Within Catholicism and within lots of Christianity. It doesn't matter how poor you are here. It doesn't matter how horrible your life is here, because in the afterlife, you're going to get your reward. And Nietzsche said that this was crap. He said that we needed to become excellence within ourselves because we are God in ourselves. He said that Christianity and Western virtues and Western prudishness was in direct violation of the true nature of man. What's the true nature of man? As Tim the Toolman Taylor says. Or is it har, 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 har? More power. The nature of man is to obtain power. And how do you obtain power? What is power? That's a big question. Who's probably the most powerful man or woman in the household on hamburger and French fry night? The cook. Because last night when they made pot roast and broccoli, when the broccoli was done, could the cook in the house, normally mom, put the broccoli on the table and not worry about anybody stealing the broccoli? Not in your house? Okay. What about French fries? When your mom, or when you as a mom are cooking French fries, do you keep the French fries right next to you? Or do you go put them in the kitchen on the dining room table? If you go put them on the dining room table, what happens? They're gone. Pardon?
Everybody walks by and eats them.
Everybody walks by and grabs some. And French fries are like power. French fries are power. Huh? It's fried chicken in your house? Okay, so French fries, you know, like Sonny said, or even fried chicken. You keep a fork in one hand to stab a hand with to make sure nobody steals your power. And this is the nature of man. If you don't protect the power that you have, you don't watch over the power that you have, somebody's going to take it. And this is the true nature of man, because we're greedy, we're selfish, and we're manipulative. And this is what Nietzsche says. And he says that we are going to obtain power any way that we can. He opposed the Greeks. He said that they were unreasonable. And when generalizations were impermissible. Okay? What I was doing earlier, making generalizations about rape victims, Nietzsche says is impermissible. Because that's not every person. Because there is somebody that wears a size 12B and doesn't wear a size 9. And that person that wears a size 12B is the one that will contain, maintain, and retain the power. I'm not saying me, myself, but those people that don't fit the mold. Okay? He said that the sense of reason is overrated. Actually, he said that reason is unnatural, or reason and the use of reason is unnatural to the nature of man and to ordinary people. How many people think through reason? Huh? Everybody reasons? What about April and Faith? How much reason were they using today? As April found herself in this half Nelson, where I was putting her elbow inside her ear, and then I had her in this arm bar where I basically picked her up by her elbow and the small of her back. What kind of reason was she thinking when she decided she was going to start a fight because somebody bumped into her and pulled her hair? Yes, it was an accident. It was not on purpose. Until after the fight started and she grabbed herself a handful of hair. It was not on purpose. It was incidental. It was not. She wasn't thinking rationally. You know? When you're walking through the crowded streets of New York City, where does a rational person put their wallet?
Front pocket.
Front pocket. Where do a lot of guys leave their wallet? In their back pocket. What happens to their wallet? It gets stolen. See, I learned the hard way. I used to keep my wallet in my back pocket. Never left it, you know, always in my back pocket. My grandmother died. I drove from here. I got out of class at noon. I drove from here to Dallas. Got on an airplane. Flew from Dallas to Boston. We got stuck in Philadelphia for 3.5 hours on the tarmac after they passed a law where you can't sit for more than 2 hours. Finally got into Boston. Went to the wake that night. Went to the funeral. Was a pallbearer the next day. Went to another wake that afternoon. The next morning I was back on an airplane. Flying back to Dallas. Back in my car. Driving back to Big Spring. The entire time with my wallet in my back pocket. It's not a real thick wallet. But it took Jody 9 months to put my backpack together. I couldn't even stand up straight for a while. I was in so much pain. I was going through hydrocodone and Loratabs. And my wife was going, "Are you becoming addicted?" I said, "My back is killing me. I need to take this just so I can stand up straight." And then eventually I wasn't taking him as much. And then eventually Jody finally fixed my back. And so now I don't have any of those problems. But where do I keep my wallet now? In my front pocket, always. And when I get in the car, I take it out of my pants altogether. If I'm taking a drive that's more than 3 minutes long, I take it out of my pants altogether and put it in the console. You don't need to tell me twice. Okay. He credited the Stoics, and we're going to talk about the Stoics and the hedonists here in a little bit. But he credited the Stoics and the hedonists with a great deal of wisdom. He said that their work should be taken with a grain of salt because no moral code can be unconditionally derived. Although the Stoics are right. Well, what's a Stoic? Well, we'll get to that in a minute. You guys probably know him more common as Mr. Spock. The Stoic mindset, the Stoic philosophy was one that regarded passion as a sin. There was no passion, there was no emotion. It was pure logic, pure reason, pure ration. He said that they had a lot of wisdom, but you can't establish a moral code that's derived from their thoughts. He also saw hypocrisy in European morality. His reputation was that of a philosopher, was based on his campaign against morality itself. He challenged and he championed and he went against moral thought. That's how come you can go to any beach in Europe and they're not wearing any clothes. A lot to do with Nietzsche. Okay, he was distressed by the moral indiscretions of the ruling classes that treated their populations as slaves. He said that there was a hypocrisy within Western civilization because the elite got to live one way, while all the peasants had to live another way, and they were kept in a moral situation of slavery. When Angelina Jolie cheats on Brad Pitt, what do we say? Do we really care? But what happens when your friend, lives next door, is cheating on his wife? Does that now become a worse offense? Why do we have this double standard? Why is it that when guys are sluts, they're called players, right? And they're studs. And they get this swag about them, and what was Walt Chamberlain? I betted over 1,800 women. Woohoo! And everybody in, the Rolling Stone magazine and ESPN made a big deal of all of his sexual conquests. Now let's see if, sorry, Stephanie. Stephanie walks into the room and says, I've betted over 1,800 men. Or even if it was, Slut. Even if it was, what's her name, Jennifer Aniston. If she was admitted to betting over 1,800 different men, hey, that's somebody that Brad Pitt's had both, hasn't he? We consider them sluts. Why do we have these double standards within Western society? And Nietzsche found these, and Nietzsche talked about these. He called for a moral revolution. He called for a change in the way that we did things. And he wanted a transvaluation of values. His radical values were based on innate obsession with power. The old value was humility. Doesn't the Bible tell us that humility is good, and meekness, and the meek will inherit the earth? Yes, sir. That's your phone. Nietzsche said it's not humility that is good, but pride. Pride in self, pride in your work, pride in your ability. Yes, sir. Try again.
The Bible gives a good example of what happened to the slutty people, like in King David.
Uh-huh.
Now we're talking Psalms about all the women he is with. And when he died a very painful death as a result of all the women he'd been with over the years. And he's supposed to have had how many thousands of women?
Okay, that was Solomon, not David.
Was it Solomon?
David's son. Granted, David had his fair share. I think David had 3 wives or maybe 4 wives. But it was Solomon that had over 1,000 wives. Well, he had 300 wives, 999 concubines.
The problem wasn't until he started marrying.
And it didn't cause a problem until he married outsiders. Until he married that Egyptian woman who brought the Egyptian gods into Israel is when he started having issues, according to the Bible. Huh? Yes. Okay. I know that just walks right into the Aryan Brotherhood and the Aryan Circle, but anyway. The old value of sympathy needed to be replaced by pity, because pity was from a position of strength. What does sympathy mean? That you feel somebody's pain. You've been there. It's empathy, sympathy. You've been there. You've done that. Here, I sympathize for your loss. I'm so sorry that your grandmother died. My uncle said, don't pity me. She had Alzheimer's. She was an absolute bear to live with for the last 3 years. You've got absolutely no idea what I've been through. And don't pity me. Okay. Pity is from a place of superiority. It is from a place of strength. You don't admit your weaknesses. You pity somebody. You know, like Mr. T. I pity the fool who messes with my van, or whatever he says he wants to pity this week from the A-Team. Okay. And he became famous off of those 4 words. I pity the fool. Because he's standing from a place of strength. He's standing from a place of superiority, where I pity you. I'm going to help you because I pity you. I'm going to give you a review here in a little over an hour because I pity you. Okay. I gave a test yesterday. Yes, I am bringing it up. I gave a midterm yesterday to my courts class. It was 50 questions, multiple choice. True and false. Multiple select. Just like the test you guys are going to take in 2 weeks. Last week I gave them every question that was on the test. Every question on the test. Word for word. Just in a different order. Out of the 19 students that took that, 20 students that took that test, do you know how many passed it? 5. 5. There was a 96. There was a 94. There was a 90. There was an 86. There was a 74. And there was a 64. Everybody else failed that test. The next highest score was a 42. I was so pissed yesterday going into the juvenile justice class, I said, screw it, no more reviews. I'm not giving another review to anybody. I give you all the power to make an A in my class. And 5 people actually studied and took the time to make sure they made an A. Okay. You can find every question from my lectures or the first 4 chapters of this textbook. It's that easy. And you guys have got a better advantage because you've got spring break as well. So you're going to have a full 14 days. Well, we'll say 13 days because today's over. 13 days to find every answer that's on this test. And how many of you plan on failing it? Okay. I'm going to hold you to it. You've got 14 days. I want to see nothing less than a 90. 85. Contempt. Contempt is the old virtue. We want to replace contempt with aloofness. You know, that's a difficult word to understand. I didn't know what that word meant. What does it mean to be aloof? You know, you could show anger. You can show somebody that you're angry and somebody that you are just beside yourself. And you're in contempt. You know, stop messing with your hair. So she keeps messing with her hair. That's contempt. Aloofness is not letting people know your emotions. Aloofness is the ability to show people that you have no emotion. Because isn't it better that nobody sees how you feel on the inside? Because that's the better place. That's the place of Superman. Because nobody knows that Clark Kent is really Superman. He's aloof. He hides his real self. Love one's neighbor. That's the golden rule. Love your neighbor as yourself and do unto others as you would do unto them. Nietzsche says, Nietzsche says, that's, bad word alert, bullshit. I tolerate you because it is necessary to tolerate you. And I will do unto you before you do unto me. So, if I see you puffering up, like you're thinking about punching me in the nose, I'm taking you out. If I see you reaching for a knife, I'm pulling a gun. If I see you pulling a gun, I'm going to pull an automatic. If I see you pulling an automatic, I'm going to pull a hand grenade. But I'm going to just merely tolerate your existence because you're not equal to me. What are you? A woman? Nothing but? Okay, granted, I guess at this point in time I need to remind you that I'm talking about Nietzsche. These are not my personal views or beliefs. He wanted to redefine human nature. Man's natural state is aggressive, and it's the will to power. That's who we are all striving for. You know, we know the game. The man with who dies with the biggest toys wins. What's the biggest prize that any man can make or achieve? President of the United States, John Fisher, 2024. I am seriously doubt that we'll have a country in 2024, but if there is, I will be president. That is a powerful place to be. So, let's see here. I am in Howard College. What do I do at Howard College to make sure that I am the most well-known professor on campus? But before you took any classes with me, did you know who I was? Yes, you did. Okay. Travis, did you know who I was before you started taking classes? No? Are you a traditional student living in the dorms? No. Joe, your first class was with me. You can't answer that question. I'm the voice of the Hawks. Anytime there's a basketball game, I'm there. Anytime there's a fight on campus, it happens right in front of me. For some stupid reason, I'm always there. I run the Criminal Justice Association. I'm the faculty advisor for the Criminal Justice Association. The Criminal Justice Association is the most powerful social organization on campus. Everybody knows who I am. Is that a good place of power to be in? How many people is it going to take to replace me if they let me go? Just one? Joe. Joe says, I could do your job and get your PhD and not lose a night of sleep and never get sick. It's a military mindset thing. We are supermen, so we can, that's part of the next evolution of man. Power is the universal drive that's found in all men. We want more power. Why are you in school? Why are you getting an education?
Because Heidi made me.
Because Heidi made you. Okay, well, you're subservient to the power of Heidi. Education gives you power. Those not do what?
It's easier than working.
It is easier than working. It's a lot easier than working. Okay. Before I had those letters behind my name, actually, I'm strange. I have 4 letters behind my name. My name is John F. Fisher, M.S.M.A., which means Master of Science and Master of Arts. This time next year, I only pray to God, probably next summer of 2013, I'm going to walk the stage and my name is going to change. My name is going to become John F. Fisher, Ph.D. Does that change the power that I have? Even people have said it here. Fisher, did you know that you're going to be only one of 2 people? One of 2 PhDs at Howard College? I said, what about Dr. Sparks and Dr. Flores and Dr. So-and-so and Dr. this and Dr. that and Dr. this? They go, they're all EDDs. I said, that's still a doctorate. Yes, but it's not a PhD. Okay? Education brings power. Education is what every person should drive and strive for. Because that is what brings us power. That's what gives us power. Okay? And we must strive to gain and control that power. We don't let people take our French fries. Okay? I'm the voice of the Hawks. I do the announcing at the basketball games. When I miss a game, people yell at me. You made us listen to so-and-so. Where were you? Well, I was dying. I was in the hospital. So? I do the announcing for the softball games. And this semester, they've had a lot of games on Wednesdays. And I have classes on Wednesday afternoon, and then I've got I got to prepare for my great lectures that I give you guys, so I don't have time to do games on Wednesdays. So they have to listen to that other guy. And all he plays are the Beatles and Queen, I think. And nobody likes the music that he plays, and nobody likes his announcing abilities, and they are always happy when I show up. Huh? He doesn't cook at all. And then I run the concessions. And the food that I sell and the food that I cook is amazing. If you ever have the opportunity to come up for a baseball or softball game, come up. My chicken on a stick rivals anything you're going to get from any Chinese restaurant. My roasted corn is to die for.
The Chinese have rat on a stick, not chicken.
Well, it looks the same. And if you listen to The Matrix, what's they say? Everything tastes like chicken, so it doesn't matter. You would never eat rat? I'll guarantee you this. Neither will I. Do you know why? So it's not kosher. I can always find the cockroach. Let's take a break. Be back in 10 minutes on that clock in the back of my classroom. I didn't say she was doing anything.
He was a son.
When?
The truck wasn't there.
Well, I didn't know softball was there.
That was my kid.
I was sick.
I was like,
I wasn't a
you
kid.
were dying.
I'm actually more silent than the doctor. My sinus cavity is filled with blood. Every time I blow my nose, it's only blood that comes out.
You should get some sinus first.
Yeah, it burns.
It does not.
Yes, it
It does not. If you mix it right, it does not.
Well, I
Because I
guess-
do it every day.
I guess I don't do it.
And in West Texas, you need it.
I don't know. I never had a flat. Look at me like that. Guys. Okay. I don't know all of this right here. All the milk.
Excuse me? I didn't hear you. You want me to pity you?
I got coconut. Hey, you can email me and I'll
Email it to you and you'll email it to everybody else? Or you'll just print it for all 32 people in the classroom?
They're all 32 people. I'm not talking because I didn't.
Well, you said just email it to you and you'll make sure everybody gets it.
Okay, email it to what is this person's peninsula? They read off all of them. And then you can go, bye. You know. This area. Gosh. Tina,
I'll put to that.
You speak Hebrew?
Not as much as I should.
Get it?
Not as much as I should.
What language is you?
None as much as I should.
Want to be more specific? Elaborate?
Spreche Deutsch. I speak English. Ivret Israeli. Yes, I speak Hebrew. Yes, I speak some Yiddish. I speak some Dutch. Well, my Hebrew is biblical and ceremonial. Outside of the synagogue, I cannot carry on a conversation. I speak 2 whole words in Chinese. Ni hao. I used to watch Ni hao Kai Lin, so I know how to say ni hao. And I also know how to say shishani in Chinese, which is thank you. I speak Turkish, although my Turkish is getting very, very weak because there's not a whole lot of use for it in the greater West Texas area.
What about Farsi and Arabic?
No, I do not. Huh?
Neither of them.
Turkish is Arabic. It's just has a phonetic alphabet. The only difference between, and there's dialectical differences, which there's some, like English and English, English and American English, okay, where the word fag in the United States describes a few people I know. A fag in England is a cigarette.
I remember that
Or the word fortnight. Fortnight is not used in the United States. It's not in the American English dictionary. It's fortnight. Fortnight. That means 2 weeks. Color. Collour. Tire. Tyre. Center. Centre. I've noticed that when I'm typing, I get really fast with typing. I start spelling in English, not English. It's kind of messed up that way. And we've still got 1 minute. Yeah, 1 minute.
It's been very. Then I get to the library and I got to
Writing a paper.
What, accidentally installed it?
Okay, this Friday and Saturday I will be at the softball field, not the baseball field.
Over here? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Down at the end of the street. I might be able to get to Hedonism tonight. I've only got a little over a page to go. I've still got an hour. You think we should just send it to us? I pity the fool. Okay. Back to Nietzsche. We love Nietzsche so well, so much. Nietzsche's influence led to the popularity of the Nazi Party. Nietzsche's philosophy and Nietzsche's influence was that which created or caused the Nazi Party to be the way that it is. The ethical philosophy of Nietzsche was that the true nature of man was a quest for power. It was a quest for aggressiveness. And it was a quest for domination. And the most aggressive, the most beautiful, the most dominant on the planet was over 6 foot tall for men, over 5'9" for women. Blonde hair, blue eyes. Less than 10% body fat. Do I?
I said, I don't mean the height weight standard.
I'm 6'3". I used to have blonde hair at one point in my life. Everybody's born with blue eyes. They stay blue for about 20 seconds before they turn pitch black. At one point in my life, I was down to about 0.08% body fat. I was a lean, mean killing machine. And this is what the supermen were. They bred and they focused on the mere aggressiveness and domination of your opponent. This is something that the military teaches. I talked to Joe outside in the hallway. I said, Joe, you were a Marine. You know all about being a Superman. Because that's something that they instill into the military, especially the combat forces. That you're bigger, you're better, you're stronger than anybody that comes up against you. And this is a mentality that they teach and they instill into the military personnel, even in our country. Okay. He says, and Nietzsche's philosophy said that Christianity promotes weakness. Doesn't it? Turn the other cheek. Screw that. I'm going to punch you in the nose. I don't turn the other cheek. I'm not going to let you hit my first cheek. Submission. Obedience is the way to salvation, according to 1 John chapter 5. You submit to the will of God. You submit to the will of man. Somewhere there, Paul said, women, be quiet in church. Do what your husband says. You must submit unto your husband. Nietzsche says, I ain't submitting to nobody. Make me submit. Exhaustion. Christianity promotes exhaustion. It promotes poverty. Didn't you know that Christianity promotes poverty? Give up everything you have and follow me. These avenues, these thoughts are wrong, according to Nietzsche. And the worst is the fatalism that we find within Christianity. No, what's the verse go, or how's the verse go? No greater gift is there than to give your life for another. I ain't giving my life for nobody. Bite me. And you better make sure you bite it off, because I'll kill you in the process. Okay. Nietzsche. Excuse me?
You have anger issues.
I have Nietzsche. And this is Nietzsche's thoughts, Nietzsche's ideas. I have friends that I would die for, and I have friends I know would die for me. Do I? I have children I would die for. I have a wife that I'll kill for. The heart of Christianity, according to Nietzsche, I know in my notes I put, was the result of everything strong and healthy. No. Okay, Christianity, according to Nietzsche, Christianity is the most seductive lie that ever existed. The nature of man is power and is everything that is strong and healthy. Christianity is a seductive lie. It allows men to emasculate themselves because it makes men submissive. It makes men turn the other cheek. It makes men take the trash out. And it gives men a honeydew. Any man that has a honeydew is not a man at all, according to Nietzsche. Honey, do this. Kiss my ass. Do it yourself. I'm the man of this house. This is my castle. Bring me my food, wench. Doesn't work very well. Nietzsche was a sexist pig. He hated women. But then again, he was raised by a bunch of women. He was a baby. He was an unexpected child in a house full of women. And they emasculated him. The whole idea of loving your neighbors and doing unto others as you would have them do unto you is also from a point of weakness. Because the natural man is going to take advantage of you, which is the way I feel every time I give a midterm. Yes, you did absolutely excellent. You were the only saving grace. Because I think that other person that made a 90 actually cheated somehow. I ain't figured it out. Do unto others before they do unto you. This is the theory and the philosophy of Nietzsche. Because mankind is egotistical. Mankind wants power. And he's going to do anything in his power to obtain that power. To include stab you in the back. You know those people, don't you? They sit up there and they come up to you and they go, "Hey, Travis, what do you think about Dr. Flores?" Travis turns around and says, "You know, Dr. Flores isn't in my chain of command. I really don't give a rat's ass about Dr. Flores." And then what do? I go run off to Dr. Flores and say, "Hey, Dr. Flores, did you hear what Travis said?" So why do you let yourself get into that position? You need to be aloof. You need to find yourself knowing that they are going to stab you in the back. And that person that you badmouthed, thinking that you were speaking in confidence, will hate you for the rest of your life. Okay. You sit there and you find yourself in a position to where, according to Nietzsche, you need to make sure that you don't get into that position. You don't trust that other person. You mistrust everybody. You stay aloof. What Travis should have said was, he's the dean of students. Okay, what's that mean? He's the dean of students. What he says goes. Does it reflect to anybody? Is it anybody's business what you think about somebody else? No. And Nietzsche says this is an avenue that you have to protect, because the power that you have is something that you must strive to protect. Because if you don't, Somebody's going to take that power away from you. Somebody's going to stab you in the back. Somebody is going to just outright kill you. And then that person that you talked bad about and said, well, he ain't in my chain of command, I don't need to worry about him, is going to end up in your chain of command. And then guess what? Then you've got something to worry about, don't you? Nietzsche says you must protect your power. You must strive to gain power. You must strive to maintain power. And don't do things that are stupid that will get that power taken away from you. Okay? The Christian morality is suited only for the paltry and the mediocre people that believe and have been duped into believing that power and aggressiveness and sexuality are immoral. Bill Clinton doing Monica Lewinsky in the Oval Office is good or bad? Why is it bad?
Not moral.
Because Christianity tells you so? Monica Lewinsky did not do anything outside of her consent. How many women are in the world today that would love to get stains on their blue dress?
Yuck.
Yuck. You know that she was going to set him up because most women would wash the dress. She did it. She put it in a plastic wrap. Said, here, I need to save this. This is from Bill Clinton. I did not have sexual relationships with that woman. You know, I can really get my Clinton going on when I've got a stopped up nose. Do you know why that is? Because he always had a stopped up nose. It was filled with cocaine. Okay. And Nietzsche said that this was wrong. And aggressiveness and sex and power are good things. And they're things that we need to strive for because sex brings power. And the more sex you have, the more powerful you are. Because for some strange reason, don't all the women want Sean Connery? Okay. Well, you're almost in my generation. Okay. All the women in my mother's age and my age all drool for Sean Connery. If you go to Europe, the women are still drooling over the Baywatch guy, Night Watchman. What's his name? David Hasselhoff. Okay. Sean Connery's much better, especially in a kill. A skirt. Who's the guy today? Brad Pitt? Daniel Craig? The new James Bond guy? Russell Crowe?
George Clooney.
George Clooney! Everybody wants George Clooney. I want George Clooney. No, I don't. I'm teasing. Okay. But for some reason, men that exude, do what? Rush Limbaugh? Did he say Rush Limbaugh?
Yeah, he's delusional. Pay no attention.
Okay. Men that have power, women want. So, if women are wanting to have sex with you, what does that tell you? You have power. Or you have the potential for power.
I disagree with that.
Why is that?
Well, because, I mean,
That's because he's gay.
how many women look at a man that they want to have sex with and wonder if he's got power or not? That makes no sense to me.
That wasn't nice. Okay. No, I know that.
Who would you rather have a relationship with?
This Mr. Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes or Dr. Watson? Who would you rather have a relationship with? The mayor or the head trash man? Who would you rather have a relationship with? The president or the dog catcher? If you can make your pick and choose, who would you prefer to have a relationship with? George Clooney or me? Why? I'm much better looking. I've got a much better sense of humor. And I'm in Texas.
He has more money.
Oh. Okay. So now we're no longer looking at the qualities of a man. We're looking at his power. He's looking at how many credit cards does he have in his wallet. This one's unlimited. This one's a couple thousand. This one is unlimited. This one is whatever I have in the bank at the time. And this one's whatever I have in the bank at the time. The green one doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the school.
So now tell me that's what you're talking about.
That's power. That's power. Money is power. He who dies with most toys wins. That's the rule of the game. In his book, The Antichrist, he urged people to declare open war on Christianity. Is this something that we see happening today? Have you guys seen the new show on ABC? Look at this. I don't have TV, and I already know about this new show on ABC. It's called, what the hell's it called? Good Christian Bitches was the original name of this show. And then because it offended a couple people, they changed the name of this show to Good Christian Bells. As in Southern Bells. It's about this woman who has 2 kids and gets divorced and moves back into the affluent neighborhood in Dallas and gets wrapped up in, and I quote, her guns, her God, and her Jesus haircut. I don't know what a Jesus haircut is, but it's long, flowing. They're all a bunch of blonde bimbos that are gossiping about each other, that own guns and go to church and pray and sing songs. And it is open war against Christianity. Have we seen the open war against Christianity in our community today, in our country today, with Obama coming out in his health care plan and saying that the Catholic hospitals have to give contraceptives to their employees? It is against Catholicism to use a condom. It is against Catholicism to use a birth control pill. Yet the government says you do not have the free exercise of religion. Force your people to have birth control. Didn't I start this lecture an hour and a half ago asking you the question, when will it become, the government must do this, to the government is forcing this? I guess it takes an hour and a half for me to get there anyway. Yes, sir.
That is going to court right now to see whether or not it is constitutional.
Well, what do you think the courts will come back and say?
Unfortunately, it's going to be constitutional.
You think it's going to be constitutional because...
I don't know, aren't there 5 conservative judges?
Yes, there are, who believe in religion.
So No, it
4 of those 5 are Catholic.
could go either way, actually.
It can go either way.
They've changed the issue, Mr. Fisher.
To what?
They've changed the issue from being freedom of religion to a woman's right to choose. Because when the board was presented in Congress and they had the priests and the rabbis and the preachers all up there, and that Congress lady asked the question, where are the women? That was the end of the game. The game was over. Right then, it changed to women's right. It has nothing to do with religious freedom anymore.
Well, they're making it a war on women, yes.
And all these,
But you never hear anything about this law preventing men from getting a vasectomy. Shouldn't it be my choice to ensure that I never bring another child onto this planet? But the government, especially the state of Missouri, is telling me that I don't have that choice. And once it becomes law in Missouri, it's going to become law everywhere. That you cannot get a vasectomy if you're a man because you have no control over your reproductive rights. That choice belongs to who? Women. Because women are the ones that get pregnant. They're the ones that are allowed to make that choice. Guess what? Women are not asexual. They cannot get pregnant by themselves. You didn't know that? That women couldn't get pregnant by themselves. You need to catch up with science, bud.
I mean, not all these high school girls are telling me.
Okay, what they're telling you is also biologically impossible. But it's still not possible to get yourself pregnant as you're doing that to yourself.
She's sworn she never slept with anybody.
Oh, I thought you were telling her she was telling you to go do something.
No. She swore she never slept with anybody.
She had a miscarriage over the weekend. My 16-year-old, her boyfriend, beat the crap out of her. She had a miscarriage. So the state's suing her. So the state is filing charges of murder on the fetus against him for aborting the baby. No, charging him with murder. He wanted the degenerate doctrine to become prime. Goes where sexual abstinence is a bad thing. Because sex is fun, sex is powerful. I've been telling you that. Sex is good. And anybody that says sex is bad is evil. Anybody who says abortion is bad is evil. Anybody that says that you cannot do those things which gain you power needs to be attacked and destroyed. He called it the slave and master morality. The master morality reflects the values of the ruling class and the ruling classes. Because do the ruling classes sleep around? Yes, they do. As much as possible, as often as possible. Nobody cares. The woman knows it's going on. Do you think for a minute that Hillary Clinton does not know that Bill is cheating on her? The issue is that she doesn't care because she's sleeping with the same people. Come on now, ladies. If you were the first lady and it came out in public that Monica Lewinsky was giving your husband, the president, blowjobs in the Oval Office, would you get pissed? She didn't. She didn't care. First she said it didn't happen. Then she said, well, it's not important. Do you know why? Because Monica Lewinsky was giving her blowjobs too.
Stop that.
Sorry. You don't like? Do you want me to use fellatio and cunnilingus instead?
She wasn't.
Hillary wanted Monica to see her husband out of guilt.
Yeah. And then the slave mentality. The mentality of the slaves reflect the values of the ruled class and the ruled classes. And they're different. There's a double standard. Okay, we talked about this double standard the other day in juvenile justice class. Okay, for those of you that were in juvenile justice the other day. If you find a young lady who's shoplifting at Dollar General, and she is the daughter of the fire marshal, what happens to that young lady? Nothing. She gets brought to her dad and said she got caught shoplifting, take care of it. Now you have another daughter caught shoplifting. She's black, and her single mother works 20 hours a day. What happens to her? She's going to jail. She's going to juvenile lockup.
And then the police department would sue for racism.
Prove it.
I'm sorry, send it to the liberal progressive media. And then the police department would sue for racism.
Okay.
I wonder what they're saying.
What they're saying is this. We tried calling her mother. Her mother was unable to be found or located. We could not deal with this issue with her parents, so we locked her up. That's not racial profiling. That's not racism. What is it? It's classism, because that girl could have been a white girl with a single mother who was working 20 hours a day. She'd still end up locked up. She just wouldn't serve as long. Okay, the ruling class has the creation or are the creation of all values. There's no approval needed from others. No approval at all is needed. Okay. So, let's move on to Stoicism. I like Stoicism. It is a philosophical and social movement that took ancient Greece by storm. Yeah, you're not going to find that in my notes. Okay. It was the predecessor to Christianity. And what it did, and what was the philosophy, was founding on the teachings of Zeno. And what he said, or what he lectured on, was to be stoic. And he called it the citadel of the soul. Stoicism, or Stoicism, S-T-O-I-C-I-S-M, is presented as a philosophy of tranquility and indifference. Okay. You are required, like Mr. Spock, you're required not to show any passion. You're not allowed to have any emotional breakdown or any emotional get-togethers at all. Okay, he said that, or some of the founding principles, some of the inner things, was that the universe is a natural whole that is rational, and everything is logical and in its place. Men are like the gods. Okay, he can recognize harmony of nature, he can recognize the truth, he can have a feeling of the truth, and he can be moved by reason. Live long and prosper. Was Mr. Spock's favorite verse? The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one. And his next favorite thing was, Jim, that's just not logical. And then Bones would go, damn your blasted green blood. Can't you just show any emotion, feeling for anything or anyone? And this is stoic, or stoicism. Okay, because we're stoic. Okay, everyone must accept with equanimity. Everybody must accept the rational will, that the universe lives in conformity. If you take from here, you have to give. This is reason. This is logic. And what happens if you just take? Eventually, there's going to be nothing left. But we can turn around, we take this logic, and we take these rules, and we can change them. Virtues are forms of knowledge. This is what the Stoics said. Okay, and I've been touching on everybody up to this point have all agreed that the ultimate power, the ultimate virtue is knowledge. The more knowledge you have, the more virtuous you are. The greater amount of education you have, the more powerful you are. The more stoic you are. Rational choices are made in accordance with the dictates of the soul, which is the offspring of the gods. Because we are gods. Do we see a little bit of Nietzsche in here as well? This is why Nietzsche liked this. But it doesn't come up with any rules, because if we're God and our values come from our soul, anything we do is right and virtuous. Okay. But virtuous persons possess apatheia. It's a psychological state of calmness with respect to pleasure and pain. You don't smile. Have you ever seen that, Professor? Or you had that uncle? I have an uncle. He never smiles. He looks like this. You can't make him laugh. I've tied him in a chair. Granted, he's only 5 years older than me. I tied him in a chair and made him watch the Three Stooges, and he just stood there. Or just sat there. There is no expression. And that is the great virtue. Morality and moral behaviors are the epitome of the human existence, and they must transcend the barriers of ration and reason and of thought. Okay. So with that in mind, let's talk about hedonism. More specifically, let's talk about utilitarianism. Utilitarianism comes from or comes out of hedonism. Hedonism was the counter to Stoicism, which is why I needed to briefly touch on Stoicism, because it's the exact opposite of what I'm going to talk about now. Because utilitarianism and hedonism is about the utility of pleasure. One should always choose, according to Jeremy Bentham, one should always choose the action that maximizes pleasure and minimizes pain. And we need to experience this. We need to show it in complete and total opposites of what the Stoics said. Because we need our pleasure. We need our fun. Okay? It requires a strict impartiality to be a proper, true utilitarian. The consequences of an action are not outweighed by any other consequences. In other words, we don't worry about the consequences unless we also worry about the pleasures and the rewards that could come across. So let's look at it in the form of sex. What are the consequences of sex? We discussed this last week. STDs, pregnancy, any other consequences? Divorce. Does sex, especially if it's not done in accordance with personal belief, does sex lower self-esteem? Can sex lower self-esteem? Or as Dr. Ruth, what's her last name? I forgot Dr. Ruth's last name. Huh? That's Joyce Brothers. I'm looking for Dr. Ruth Somethingberg. She was a sniper for the Haganah, the Israeli terrorist group that she brought one of the bombs into the King David Hotel. Dr. Ruth, she just goes by Dr. Ruth. She's the sex counselor on the radio late night. Okay, Dr. Ruth. Yes. That is her. Sex is a good thing. And she would tell you sex is always good, even if it's with yourself. Because sex with yourself doesn't give you disease. Gotta love Dr. Westheimer. Yes, Dr. Westheimer. Okay, but it was a direct relationship. We sit there and we measure the pleasure versus the pain. We measure the reward versus the punishment. The risk. We measure these things. Okay, other moral considerations that duties, rights, and justice are subordinate to utility. Utility is more important than anything else that we do. It is more important than duty. It's more important than rights. And it's more important than justice, because my pleasure is more important than your pain. Because it's just that much fun. There's an obligation to anybody. The Sonum Bonum, the universal law of utilitarianism and hedonism is pleasure. Okay, Jerry Springer has the Hedonistic Festival every year down in Jamaica. He even televises it, and it's got a pay-per-view, $50. You can watch it all on TV. It's a week long. He shows 3 or 4 hours a day. Yeah, how do I know this? Because I saw the advertisement on Facebook. Obligation is to maximize pleasure and minimize pain. It requires a person to do a cost-benefit analysis on every choice. Okay? So what I mean by cost analysis is what's called the hedonistic calculus. We have to do a risk, pleasure, pain analysis on every option. So let's say I am a peeping Tom. And you got to catch me first, don't you?
You won't go that fast.
What do you mean I won't go that fast? 35 seconds, I'm done.
Have you seen you lately?
You did not see me today at the Coliseum when I had to break up that fight. Apparently I still move pretty quick when I need to.
Girls.
Yeah, I know, there are girls. I was still able to move in the way before she could throw a punch. I can move as fast as I need to when I need to.
Well, don't move too fast when you're reading the questions that refute.
Yeah, I've already decided I'm not reading the questions.
Are you on drugs?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I am on 3 doses, 7 o'clock, noon, 4 o'clock. I'm on 3 doses of Dayquil every day and 1 dose of NyQuil every night. And if I wake up in the middle of the night, I take another dose of NyQuil. So yes, I am on drugs.
On drugs. Are they on Angel?
Well, they'll be on Angel after spring break.
What do you mean after?
Oh, no,
spring
not
break?
after spring break, sir. No, I want them there in the morning, or I'm coming
No.
after.
I will not put them there in the morning.
Then tonight.
You'll have to wait until I finish what I'm talking about, and then we will discuss the test.
Were we discussing power?
Yes, we were. And guess what? You're not taking mine. You are not taking my power. I have already have my process set up. It's a process that I have been following all semester, and I'm not going to change it for you. While the back row here in Big Spring are just laughing their ass off. Because they have the luxury of already having midterms with me and knowing what my process is this semester. Okay, so don't worry about it, you'll be fine. No reason to fret or worry. Yeah. I got tired of reading the questions, so I said I ain't doing it no more. Okay, so what we want to do is we want for every decision that you make, we know that it has a consequence. Every decision that you make, every time you jump me in the hallway, there is a consequence. And what you need to do in act utilitarianism is measure that consequence. So, let me make myself the peeping Tom again. What pleasure is there involved with me looking in Melissa's bedroom window when her husband's not home? I don't know, she's got a baby in the house, so probably not a whole lot of pleasure anymore. No. Or some woman's bedroom. Better yet, let me give you a real true life story. I used to live in a small little town called Fort Walton Beach, Florida. My yard was a beach. It was on the beach. But we lived on a hill. And my house was lower than the house behind me. And if I stood on my back porch, I could see into her bedroom window. And the stuff that, do what?
I said perv.
Okay, she had a 6-foot privacy fence. But I could still see in her bedroom. Okay, now we're going to come to the hypothetical portion, and I'll tell you after it's all over, I'll tell you what I actually did. Okay, so could I do my cost-benefit analysis? She can't see me because the privacy fence is in the way. But I can see her. I can see everything she does in her bedroom. Everything. So much fun. It was a blast. Okay, so how much pleasure is there for me to watch her do what she does in her bedroom? With or without a date? Lots of pleasure, right? You know, get all kinds of fun. What pain is there? Does she get hurt? Because she doesn't know what's going on. She has absolutely no idea that I can sit there and watch her in her bedroom while she's getting dressed or playing with her toys or doing whatever she does.
How ethical is that?
It's not very ethical at all. And I told you I will tell you what I did when I'm done. Now, what are some of my choices or some of the options that I could do? Never go into my backyard again? Because I might see her in her bedroom? Doing yoga, yes. Is that rational? To never go in my backyard again because she gets naked and does stuff in front of the window that you shouldn't be doing in front of an open window anyway, but she doesn't know because she has a 6-foot privacy fence and she can't see me watching her. So as an act utility, as the hedonistic calculus, we have to sit there and we have to make that decision. What kind of pain is involved here? Okay, well, while this was going on, I was married. And I had 3 kids. So now I sit there and I go, hold on a second. If my wife comes out here and watches me watching her, will that hurt my wife? Now I have to weigh that pain. What kind of pain will it cause my wife? Well, she don't know, don't hurt her, babe. Right? But what if she gets caught? Or if she catches me? Or what if one of my kids come out there? Oh my God. What if my son walks out on the back porch and sees her with her feet up on the window and her toys? Yeah. That's absolutely horrible. So, this is what I, as an act utilitarian, actually did. I said, oh my effing God. Okay, I went back in the house. And then, of course, I'm a man. I go, no, I did not see that. So I went and looked again. And I go, no, that's wrong. So I ruined her day. I went around the block and knocked on her door. Just a minute. She comes and opens the door and she's wearing a robe. I go, ma'am, I need you to get dressed because I need you to come to my house and I want you to see what I see when you're in your bedroom. She goes, excuse me? I go, you are doing stuff in your bedroom in front of an open window. That is wrong. How do you know? Nobody can see me. I said, get dressed. Let's go to my house and I will show you what I can see in your bedroom. So she got dressed. We walked back around the yard. I introduced her around the block. I introduced her to my wife. I said, Sonia, this is the woman that lives across the back of the fence. You know, the one I told you about? She goes, oh, really? Yeah, okay. And I said, come with me, ma'am. And I stepped out. We stepped out on my back porch. And she looked up and she saw her bedroom window. And she goes, oh, my effing God. The next night I went, because I smoked, and I'd smoked in the backyard. The next night I went outside to light a cigarette, and guess what? She had curtains. Oh, yeah. So I didn't have to watch her anymore. How ethical is that?
You didn't have to watch her to begin with.
Shouldn't have watched her to begin with. She shouldn't have been in front of an open window.
You shouldn't have been watching her.
Okay. Which is worse? Me watching or her exposing and being an exhibitionist?
He didn't do it intentionally. You did.
She did everything, and all I did was walk out in my front yard and saw her. And then went and said, hey, I can see what you're doing in your backyard. Should I have just not said anything to her? And never, ever go in my backyard again because she might be naked and my kids might see it?
Jim said he would have taken pictures and put it on Facebook.
Yeah, well, this was back in the 90s before Al Gore invented the internet.
He's a perv, too.
Okay, so we have Act Utilitarianism, the step one. We've covered the Act Utilitarianism. What is the best way to live? What is the best way? What are the best options? What are the best ways to go about obtaining what we're looking for? Okay. A person has a moral obligation to choose the very best alternative and the best choice that gains the greatest amount of pleasure with the least amount of pain. Okay, so which would have provided the greatest amount of pleasure with my neighbor? In my situation that I told you about with my neighbor. Well, according to Jim, it's not telling her a thing, taking pictures and putting it on the internet.
Oh, the best pleasure would have been if you'd got your wife involved.
No, probably not. Well, I did get my wife involved. I said, hey, my wife, look at this. This woman's doing this. Now, maybe it would have been really cool if I said, hey, you know, we can see you and see everything that you're doing. And then she said, oh, cool. I like that idea. Would that have been perfect pleasure for everybody? No, why not? If I got my wife involved and she didn't care. Oh, hold on. There's 3 little kids that are running around that could be affected by this. Act Utilitarianism, you have to look at all the consequences. You have to look at all the options before you can make a decision on what you're going to do. My decision was to go tell the woman, hey, you need to stop what you're doing because I can see what you're doing. You need to put curtains up or become a nun. Okay, and that is the worst play I've ever seen in my life. You must use the foreseeable consequences. You cannot or do not use any pre-existing assessment of what's right or wrong. You can't turn around and say being a peeping Tom is wrong. That's a preconceived notion. That has to deal with our Christianity that says that being a peeping Tom and watching naked women is bad.
Okay, so are you telling me that some man walking down the street and he walks by a window that has, let's say, shears in it, and some woman is taking a shower, and you can't really see her, but you can walk up to her window and stand there and look at her, that's okay? Because she's naked and she's in the damn shower.
According to utilitarianism, okay, I think you're getting a little confused with what my beliefs are and what the philosophy says.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which one. I'm just saying that's okay to do. I mean, I can understand you seeing somebody that doesn't know you can see them. I understand that. I got that. But I mean, everybody takes showers, and it's not okay for the peeping Tom to walk up to your window and watch you take a shower.
According to utilitarianism, it is.
Well,
according to hedonism, that is okay if it gives the greatest amount of pleasure with the least amount of pain. That's the philosophy. If I can rob this bank, if I can rob this store, and I can get all of this money and nobody gets hurt because they're insured, you know, it's okay to do. This is what the philosophy of hedonism says.
well, I like that philosophy a little better than the last one. We're good here now.
How is armed robbery any different than being a peeping Tom? How is armed robbery any different than being a peeping Tom? They are both wrong according to most of Western society. Okay. Utilitarian judges will resist any type of sentencing guidelines. They think sentencing guidelines are wrong. Because we need the utility. We need to find out what is best. Not you get busted with X amount of drugs, you go to prison for 20 years. You get busted for X amount of years, you go to prison for 40 years. You get murder, you get 15 years. You get rape, you get 7 years. A utilitarian judge will turn around and say, this is what's best for this individual. A utilitarian should always pursue utility, even if it violates the law. If my greatest pleasure is to be a peeping Tom, even though it violates what's right and wrong, if it violates the law, that is what I should do if I am a utilitarian, period. Any questions about hedonism? Yes, sir.
Okay, it's wrong for him to go be walking down the road and turn and look, watch a woman taking a shower. Ain't it wrong for her sitting there taking a shower in front of an open window facing the street, displaying herself to everybody?
That's a good question to ask. Maybe Kim would like to answer that. How is it not wrong for the woman to take a shower in front of the window for everybody to see? Okay, as you can see now on the screen in front of you is the Lessons tab. In the Lessons tab, you scroll down and you will see where it says Exams. And then it says Midterm. The midterm interaction will open March 21st, 2012 at 6:50. It will close March 21st at 9:30 p.m. To gain access of this test, it has a password. And the young lady that is my proctor there, my facilitator there in San Angelo, will give you that password to type into your laptop that will be on your desk when you show up here 2 Wednesdays from today. Immediately completing your test, your grade will be found in the grade book under midterm. Okay? This test, at a glance, includes 55 questions. There are 64 multiple choice questions. There are 32 multiple choice questions. There are 18 true or false questions, and there are 5 multiple select questions. Let me define multiple select for you. This means that there is more than one correct answer. Okay, and you have to select them all. Each question is worth 2 points.